Story 1. Whistles in the pines. After my divorce, I needed a reset, a fresh start. So I moved to my grandfather's old house in Chatham, Alabama. It was a quiet town, the kind of place where the trees outnumber the people and the nights are darker than you remember. The house had been empty since he died. It stood at the edge of a forest, worn down by time, but still standing strong. The front porch sagged slightly, and the shutters creaked in the wind. I remembered visiting as a kid. It always had a strange feel to it, like the shadows lingered a bit longer than they should. But I was too tired to care. Tired of the city, tired of the memories. I just wanted peace. That night, I sat on the porch, watching the wind play through the pines. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it. A whistle. 3 slow, drawn-out notes coming from the woods. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but something about it felt off. It wasn't random. It was structured, purposeful. I stood up and looked into the tree line. Nothing. Just darkness and the occasional sway of branches. I shook it off. Told myself it was probably just some animal. Or maybe the wind really was playing tricks on me. Still, I locked every door before I went to bed. The next morning, I decided to explore the house. It was filled with old furniture, dusty photographs, and a lifetime of memories that didn't belong to me. In the attic, I found a box labeled Private. Inside was a leather-bound journal. My grandfather's handwriting filled every page. The early entries were normal, stories about the town, weather notes, old hunting trips. But the last few entries were different, disturbed. It's back, the same whistle, same pattern. 3 notes. Every night. Saw it last night. Tall, watching, just beyond the trees. Doesn't come closer unless you answer, I told the sheriff. He laughed. But I know what I saw. It remembers me. It never forgets. I sat there for a long time, staring at those words. I remembered hearing stories as a kid, about people going missing in those woods, about a thing that whistled at night. I always thought they were just ghost stories. But now I wasn't so sure. That evening, I went into town, stopped at a small gas station to grab some supplies. The man behind the counter looked up as I walked in. Mid-60s, grey beard, tired eyes. "You Boone's grandson?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just moved into his old place." He didn't smile, didn't say welcome. Instead, he looked me dead in the eye and asked, "Has it started whistling yet?" My blood ran cold. "You've heard it too?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Don't go out at night, and whatever you do, don't answer it. Ever." That night, I didn't sit on the porch. I stayed inside, shotgun by my side, staring out the window. The trees swayed gently. And then I heard it. The whistle. 3 notes. This time, it was closer. Much closer. I stood, heart pounding, and peeked through the blinds. Just beyond the tree line, I saw a shape. Tall. Thin. Still. No face. No eyes. Just a silhouette in the dark. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just stood there. Then the whistle came again, but this time, it wasn't from the woods. It was right outside the house. I backed away from the window, grabbed the shotgun, locked every door again, and stayed up all night. By morning, it was gone. But I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. 2 nights later, I found something in the basement. A hidden door behind a shelf, locked shut with 3 rusted bolts. I opened. It inside was a small, windowless room. Every inch of the wall was covered in tally marks, hundreds, maybe thousands. And written over and over in black charcoal were the words, "Don't answer the whistle. Don't look at it. It comes for those who listen. It remembers." I left that night. Haven't been back since. Sometimes, though, when I lie awake in my apartment, I swear I hear something, just faintly, carried on the wind. 3. Slow notes. A whistle, calling out from the pines, still waiting for me to answer. Story 2. The hanging tree. When I was 10 years old, my parents moved us to a little town in Mississippi. Quiet, slow, peaceful. The kind of place where nothing ever happens. Until it does. Our new house had a backyard that ended in a thick tree line. Beyond that was nothing but woods for miles. On our first night there, I remember looking out my bedroom window and seeing it. A tree, a massive, gnarled oak deep in the woods, right in the center of a clearing. It stood taller than all the others, its limbs twisted like crooked fingers. Even as a kid, I knew something about it felt wrong. It didn't sway like the others when the wind blew. It didn't shed its leaves. It just stood there, watching. A week after we moved in, a girl in town went missing. Search parties combed the woods. They found nothing. A few days later, a boy disappeared too. People started whispering, saying the tree was cursed, saying it took people. Of course, adults brushed it off as superstition, just gossip. But kids, we knew better. We dared each other to go near it. No one ever got close. No one ever wanted to. One afternoon, my friend Chris and I were playing with walkie-talkies in the backyard. He dared me to go into the woods, just to the clearing, just to see the tree. I didn't want to, but I didn't want to look like a coward either, so I went. The deeper I walked, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind, just silence. And then I saw it. Up close, the tree was worse. Its bark looked scorched in places, like something had burned it long ago. Hanging from its limbs were old, frayed ropes. Dozens of them. Swings? No, not swings. No one ever built swings that way. Suddenly, my walkie-talkie crackled. Chris's voice came through, quiet. "Do you see it?" I pressed the button. "Yeah, it's just a tree." But then he said something that chilled me. "I'm looking at it too, but you're not there." I froze. "What?" I asked. "I can see the clearing. I can see the tree. But you're not there." That's when I heard it. A creaking sound, like wood under strain. I looked up. One of the ropes was swinging, slowly. Back and forth. Back and forth. There was no wind. There was no one else there. I turned and ran. Didn't look back. Didn't stop until I crashed through the tree line into my yard. Chris was standing there, white as a ghost. He pointed to the walkie-talkie. "It wasn't me talking to you," he whispered. A few weeks later, they found the girl, or what was left of her, hung from one of the ropes, her feet just barely touching the forest floor. They called it suicide. But I knew better. We all did. Years have passed. I moved away, built a life, left that town behind. But sometimes I'll be walking down the street and I'll hear a creaking sound, or I'll see a tree just barely swaying, and I'll remember those ropes, that clearing, that feeling, like something is still out there, waiting, watching, and sometimes I wonder if the tree remembers me too. Story 3. The shadow on the wall. I'll never forget the day we moved into that house. It was the perfect fixer-upper. A charming old place, 2 stories, surrounded by trees. The kind of house that felt like it had secrets. Maybe that should have been a warning. We were unpacking the last of the boxes when I first saw it. A shadow, flickering on the wall. It wasn't anything specific. Just a shape. It wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone's. It just was. I shook it off, told myself it was the light playing tricks. Maybe the window was reflecting the branches outside. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The first night, I had trouble sleeping. It was like the house was too quiet, like the walls were pressing in on me. Around 2 a.m. I heard it, a tapping sound, like nails on wood. I turned to see if it was coming from the floor above me, but no. The sound was coming from the wall, the very same wall where I had seen that shadow. I tried to ignore it, but that night I dreamed of the shadow. It was tall and thin, stretching across the room. It had no features, just a dark silhouette against the pale walls, and I could hear a whispering voice, barely audible, just a low hum. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt its presence, like it was waiting. The next few days were normal, except for one thing. I kept seeing the shadow. Not just at night, but during the day too. It would flicker across the wall like a passing cloud and disappear before I could focus on it. It always returned, no matter where I was, no matter what time it was. That's when I started hearing the whispering. Not in my dreams anymore, but when I was wide awake. It was quiet at first, like a soft murmur in the background. But as the days went by, it grew louder. It felt like it was coming from behind the wall, just beyond the surface, waiting, and I could feel it watching me. One night, I decided I had to confront it. I stood in front of the wall, staring at it. No shadow, no noise. But I could still feel something. I pressed my ear against the cold, rough surface. And then I heard it. A voice, clearer than it had ever been. Let me out! I ran. I didn't even think. I just ran out of the house, out into the cold night air. I don't know how long I stood there shivering. When I finally went back inside, the house was still. The shadow was gone. The whispers had stopped. But I never felt safe there again. I moved out a month later, sold the house, never looking back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still there. Something in the walls. Something waiting. Years have passed, but sometimes when I'm lying in bed at night, I'll hear that whisper, soft, distant, like it's trying to reach me, and I'll wonder if that thing ever really left.